Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome to another alternative factuals video. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe and check out all our older content and all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's kind of jump into today's video. So last night I actually went to go see the 7 p.m. showing of the movie Us. Now this is a Jordan Peele movie, and if you kind of have an idea of like the type of movies that he's kind of directing or creating in this kind of aspect, it's mostly those mental thrillers and kind of horrors where they're not really jump scary, for like example like Paranormal Activity or even I would say The Conjuring in some moments, but it's more or less something about the people themselves and the characters that take place, as well as a usually reflection of the world in some way, shape, or form. So let's kind of jump into the foundations of the movie itself. So you have Lupita. Now she's from the Black Panther movie. Obviously she was one of the main characters, as well as you have Winston Duke, both from the Black Panther movie obviously, so hooray on that one. So they play kind of the two main characters, where Lupita obviously is the mother and Winston Duke is the father. I don't really know how to pronunciate Lupita's character name in the movie. All I know is it's like Adelaide, something like that, Wilson, and then Winston's character is called Gabe, so that was such a weird kind of thing. But anyways, I'll call her Mrs. Wilson and then I'll call him Mr. Wilson, whatever. They have a family. They go to the beach house of Mrs. Wilson's mother, and her mother passed away a couple of years ago, I believe, and they hadn't really visited the house since she was really alive, so they usually avoided it. And there was a specific reason on why Mrs. Wilson really avoided the whole house, and it kind of feeds into this traumatic experience that she had as a kid, where she went to the beach with both of her parents, who are played by Anna Diop, and the other guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name either, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's called Yaya. Say Yaya. But and remember, Anna Diop is actually the same woman who plays Starfire in Teen Titans, so they're they're looking at a predominantly obviously black cast when it comes to these main character movies, at least from Jordan Peele's standpoint, so kudos on that one. But it comes from this traumatic experience of when she went to this house of mirrors when she was younger, and this is Mrs. Wilson when she was younger. She wandered off because her parents were kind of arguing, and then after they argued, the mother went to the bathroom and the father wasn't paying attention because he was drinking and playing whack-a-mole at the carnival. So she went to this house of mirrors, and it comes to find out that it looked like in the mirrors there was another version of her. Now most people would dismiss it as like supposedly it's supposed to be a reflection of her in the mirror, but quickly you see that the reflection does not move with her. It's almost as if there's something else there, someone else there. And later in the movie you will find out that there was something else there, or someone else in a lot of ways. But alright, you move on. They go to the beach house, and then that traumatic experience, they went to therapy for it when she was still a little girl, and they figured that was the reason why she didn't talk for an extended period of time, just because she was dealing with a traumatic incident. But you'll find out why that happened. So fast forward back to the present, where they have a family now. They have two children. One of the children's name is, or the oldest daughter is called Zora Wilson, as well as the youngest son is called Jason. Now they seem like a regular family, pretty cool, and the movie started off for the most part about like 20-30 minutes of it where they're just kind of having fun as a family. But quickly we find out that that she wasn't crazy when she was younger. So maybe about like, I would say 37-40 minutes into the movie, I could be wrong about that, but that's when they see the other versions of themselves. And then this is when we kind of found out that there's some sort of experiment that was taking place. I believe it started in that town, or it could have just been a universal thing where they actually were cloning people, but the thing is they couldn't clone the soul, so they felt like they were tethered to the original person. And the whole point that the clones even kind of manifested was the fact that they had to kill the originals to kind of feel like they were not tethered to their originals anymore. And once they kind of untethered themselves, they held hands with the other clones as a sign to say that together they are untethered. And then this is a whole universal thing. This took place across the whole planet. But what made the movie interesting is it took a twist at the end of it, where this is kind of the same thing that happened to Mrs. Wilson when she was younger. When she was in that mirror house, she was one of the first people to kind of encounter these clones, but when she was younger she didn't really know what it was. And the movie just basically is her trying to survive because the clones are trying to kill them, and everybody else's clones pretty much killed them. And you can tell by the end of the movie that there's like a few people who survive because you see helicopters in the air and all that stuff. So there are obviously people who survived the whole incident. But what made it interesting was like a really good plot twist about it is by the time you get to the end of the movie, you realize that the mother, Mrs. Wilson, she herself was the clone, because when she was younger and she faced herself in the House of Mirrors, the clone actually knocked her out, dragged her all the way back to where the other clones were being held, and then she handcuffed her to the bed in the area where the other clothes were being held, and then she swapped out the clothes, and then she went to go back to the parents, but then realized, you know, like the parents realized she wasn't talking, and then the therapist thought it was because it was a traumatic experience because she ran away and then she didn't know where her parents were at the time, and they figured that's why she wasn't talking, when in reality the clones themselves didn't know how to talk because they were never taught how to talk. So basically the clone had to learn the language over the course of years as she kind of began to kind of unwind. But also based on her reaction to the kids and how attached she was, and also it seemed like she had forgotten where she came from. It seems like due to the fact that she was exposed to those levels of emotions and those feelings or the life that she had, that she forgot that she was a clone. So by the end of the movie you see like she's looking at her son like, oh yes, I love my kids or whatever like that. But then like it clicks in her head that she was swapped out many years ago, in that even though in the movie you see that, you know, Mrs. Wilson, the one that we're rooting for, kills what we thought was the clone, that actually means she killed the original. But this time she didn't hold hands with the other clones, but it was just a nice interesting plot twist where the whole time she's like fighting thinking that she's the original when in reality she's not, which is why she always seemed to have a really bad connection towards this place, because she knew that the original would somehow try and catch up to her in some way, shape or form. So it was very interesting. Like I said, it's one of those mental thrillers, something to kind of get your mind thinking. And obviously the clones were supposed to be some sort of representation of like the manifested darker aspects of the human race, where like I said, if you see the clones underground where they're kind of dealing with each other or their interactions, they're supposed to be copying and mimicking what their originals are doing at that given moment throughout an extended period of time. But after a while they kind of catch on and figure out like, okay, yeah, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. So that's when they plot this whole thing to kill the originals all over the world. So that's what made the movie very interesting. So if I would recommend you go see it. It's definitely, it's not like super scary. They have parts that just like, that's not very African American of you. Like, look at your skin tone, you're doing white things, you know, where poor choices are basically made, but they were not the foundation of like some of the things that happened in the movie. Like, they weren't really poorly used plot devices. It was a very interesting movie. I would recommend it. I would give it like a 7.4 out of 10. Definitely enjoyable movie, very interesting things to think about, and I think if you go see it you'll definitely understand the point that I'm coming from. But let me know what you thought about the movie, and leave it down below. Like, maybe you're gonna go see it today or tomorrow. I think it just came out today as well, so just let me know, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.